All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the clerk will note all members are present with the exception of Councilor Ziegler, who is excused tonight. For announcements, we have two. City Hall and city business offices will be closed Monday, February 16th in observance of President's Day. Emergency services are available by calling 911. The police department will remain open for walk-in emergencies. For water-related emergencies, call 208-773-3517. And the City Council will hold a special land use workshop this Thursday, February 5th at 5:30 p.m. The workshop will take place in the second floor conference room at City Hall upstairs here. For amendments to the agenda, we have one. We're moving 5B, the proclamation policy, to the following meeting. So that's off the agenda for tonight. Declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts or site visits. Seeing none, please present the consent calendar.
Item A is minutes from the January 20th, 2026 council meeting, city council meeting. Item B is payables, January 21st through February 4th, 2026. And item C is Painted Rock Subdivision Master Development Agreement, SUBD-25-3.
Questions on the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Plew,
Aye.
Steigleder,
Aye.
Mosby,
Aye.
Lucca,
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, item 2, the appointment of Brendon Anderson to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Please come forward. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on planning and zoning?
All right. Good evening, council members. How you guys hear me okay? Good? All right, my name is Brendon Anderson. I have been living in Post Falls for 7 years, moved my family here in 2019 from North Carolina. I'm a father, a husband, a business owner, small acreage chicken farmer, and other animals as well. Real estate investor, and I work for a large corporation in insurance and contracts. So I feel like I bring a lot of different experience, and obviously a concerned citizen. Experienced a lot of the growth, and I would say velocity of growth over the last 7 years. And I'd like to be part of the conversation in the planning and zoning. So that's a brief intro. I'm here for questions.
Take it away, anyone?
I guess I'll start. From which state statutes and local ordinances are the authorities of the Planning and Zoning Commission derived?
I would say the Idaho State Code.
Any in particular? There's a lot of them.
I'd have to research that, and admittedly, I don't have all the answers to those things. I think what I bring is experience working with like a variety of stakeholders, and kind of understanding different different parties' perspectives. So making decisions, we'd have to look at whatever laws apply. We'd different for every situation, and then making sure that we're understanding the rights of everyone involved.
So say you're on the commission,
Sure.
and a proposed development comes before the commission that would require annexation into the city and a zoning designation. What do you believe is your role as a member of the commission in evaluating that request and developing a recommendation?
Yeah, so we would have to first think about what the comprehensive plan has already laid out, and if we would have any detrimental reliance, if we changed anything around that. We would have to look at what the codes were in existence, and we'd have to review the plans. So.
Okay. That's all I got for now. Thanks.
Mr. Anderson, I have a question for you.
Sure.
On your application, you were talking about how you wanted to help the city of Post Falls foster a transition from more mechanical development to more organic growth. And, I haven't lived in Post Falls a long time. That sounds really good to me, but I want to know a little bit more to you. From your perspective, what do you mean when you're talking about transitioning from, I guess we're characterizing what we're doing now as mechanical development toward something more organic?
Well, and maybe it's not even, yeah, I mean, mechanical development, I think, is just the idea of all, we're just going to go build the thing, right? Whereas a more organic growth would be, if you look at how cities, you know, in Europe especially, but other places in America as well, can grow, is where you kind of fill in what you already have, right? And so instead of saying we're going to just have an endless expansion necessarily, where you have to go drive to get there, you can look at what's already in existence and say, well, let's build around what we already have and make it more inviting. Maybe that means we increase density as it's needed, right? Or we add a local business here, or we add a small shop here, and we make it easier for smaller stakeholders to do things that would improve the community as a whole, instead of just saying, well, we've got to just, you know, push out a big development out here, we can fill it in. That would just kind of be like large picture, large scale.
And having lived in the city of Post Falls for, you know, a few years now, do you have any vision as to where that needs to actually take place in particular?
So, I mean, we would start with the downtown. I think that's one thing that we have a large opportunity to focus on. I know there's plans for it, and I think there could be a lot more plans for it as well. If you think about even just down the road in Coeur d'Alene, I think it's a different feel, right? I mean, people go there; it's a destination. You can park and walk, and there's things to do, there's things to see. There's a lot of small businesses all the way down Sherman, and it's they light it up, and it brings a lot of people in organically. I think that word is there. It's somewhere that people like to be. I think we have to start with the downtown area, and I think there's opportunity to do that. So,
And then as a board for planning and zoning, how can planning and zoning actually facilitate someone coming in to do that? Because it's not going to be the city that's doing that improvement. So will it be,
Yeah.
what kind of efforts can the city take to foster that kind of change from private investment?
yeah, I think that's a good question. Admittedly, I don't know all of the processes and the ins and outs of how the board works. I think you don't always know something until you're in the thick of it, but I trust my experience in the thick of other things to make good judgments during that. I would say we definitely want to foster like the laws of attraction, right? And that starts with the vision of something that others can get behind. And I think that as that vision grows, you have those investors organically coming in. You get people that say, well, you know what, I'd like to put like a bakery right here, or, you know, or I'd like to do some multi-use and make it look really nice. I think that first there has to be the vision and the kind of the mentality shift, which I think is happening, and it just needs to happen more. And I think that people see what's beautiful and they recognize it, and I think that they'll want to be part of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for being willing to come and stand before us and talk to Mayor Westland about being on planning and zoning. It is a volunteer board, so it can be difficult to find people willing to give their free time to do that, so I appreciate that. And I also appreciate your vision for downtown. Sadly, planning and zoning isn't like an active, oh gosh, I want to say offensive, but I don't know football well enough to make that claim. But like, they're not going out and proactively making change. They're really a representative commission, whose, much like our job, is to represent the best interest of the residents of Post Falls when being asked by people that are wanting to build in the city, if that's really what is best for what already exists. So we do already have some, if I understand it correctly, real estate like developers on planning and zoning. We also have some engineers, we have some real estate agents. What could you bring to the commission that doesn't already exist that would be beneficial and representative of the residents?
Yeah, I think the fact that I'm not any of those things, and that I'm, you know, a citizen without maybe even, you know, and that's kind of the idea, the premise of like a diversity of thought and opinion, is bringing in people that are experts in their fields just to have a different critical lens. You know, just because I'm not a realtor or, you know, a builder per se, I think having worked in like insurance specifically, understanding kind of like the contractual obligations, and like the legal landscape of different things. And then also, you know, even just thinking of like where I live out on the prairie, seeing changes and things like that. It's more of a perspective, I think, and it's more of a voice than maybe like the technical experience. Maybe just being able to ask you questions like what you just asked me. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And what kind of investor did you say that you were?
So real estate investor.
Oh,
so I
so
mean, so
like
I've done So
yeah.
I've done like rental properties in like North Carolina. We've done multiple like housing flips and things, and these are all like improvement types of projects, right? So
So
doing
perhaps akin to real estate development or a real estate agent.
right.
If
Yeah.
I may ask
thanks for
about
drawing
the-
Thanks for
Yeah.
drawing that similarity. Yeah.
The comprehensive plan, I know Joe touched on it a little
Yeah.
bit. What would you say is, as we go through a comprehensive plan
Mm-hmm.
review, most important to you to see changed or updated in that?
Yeah, so in the comprehensive plan, obviously there's 200 pages, and so there's a lot to review there. But in a couple things, I think I touched on it is, recognizing that we're building corridors, through the territories. And I think while we do need to have transportation, we also need to think about what I mentioned earlier, which is like the organic growth. And it's saying that do we want to cut off neighborhoods, with interstates, or is there another way? And can we also fill in before we expand out? And again, these are like philosophical things,
Okay.
but worth discussing, I think, on every proposal.
Okay, so perhaps not like one individual addition or change that you could think of to
Well,
put in
well,
that
you can't.
plan.
You can't just, like was mentioned, you can't just go change something without knowing a little bit more of what's already been promised, right? Or what's already in the works per se.
Like a
yeah.
commercial-only zone isn't something that you would be a proponent of?
I think we need more mixed use in general.
Okay.
And I think that we want to make neighborhoods have like a whole feeling, and so we don't want to have a neighborhood sitting here and they're far away from services when we could have them intermixed, and which would, again, make places more desirable and places that people want to be. Walkability is a really important thing, and so I think that's something we need to consider is this a place we can only drive to, or can we actually access it and on foot, which is what people probably would prefer to do instead of having to drive everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, thank you for explaining your vision. I just have one last question.
Sure.
Were you able to speak to any of the other commissioners that are currently sitting prior to coming here about their experiences or them being
No,
on
I
planning and
haven't.
zoning? No?
No.
Okay, awesome. Well, it was nice to hear you flesh out a lot of your vision for Post
Yeah.
Falls, and I appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
And I want to echo what was just said. Thank you for being willing to come forward. This is a thankless yet critical position in the city. So what's your why? Like, what is it that's motivated you to serve in this specific role?
That's a good question. There's probably multiple ones. I would say, when we first moved here, we had just come here from another place, kind of just getting settled in, and just kind of learning about the history of Post Falls was interesting. Let's get established and everything. And I said, I think when we got here, there was no traffic. These are just kind of observations, in that we always found it to be interesting. I remember remarking, man, I've never waited at a light before in Post Falls, and this was only 7 years ago. And the velocity, like the COVID migration, I think is a word that I've heard tossed around, and I think it goes to the point where like growth is inevitable, and it's not something that you can prevent or should try to prevent. It's just a matter of how to, like, what does it look like? And so as I'm doing my chicken farm out there on off of McGuire, seeing the yellow signs go up, and saying, okay, like things are changing, and I just think that we need. I feel like I would like to be part of the conversation more than anything, with some of the vision that I've shared and some of my just I guess philosophy towards what a town should feel like, what it should look like, and what people actually like. Not just me, but like what do people like about towns when they go visit somewhere and they come back and they say, wow, I really liked being there. We should be that. People shouldn't have to always just go somewhere else and then come back, and I think, we get called the bedroom community, right? Or the space in between Coeur d'Alene and Spokane, right? Is that all we are? And is that all we should be? I don't think it is, and I don't think it should be. So, again, not having some of the technical experience has been pointed out, but that's exactly why I want to be here, is to say, like, let's bring the ideas and the vision to the people that have it, and let's marry those two things.
In this role, every decision you would make somebody mad.
I work in insurance.
So
Good answer.
perhaps you're used to that.
Yeah.
Every development that is turned down
Yeah.
is costing somebody time, money, and potential. And then everyone that is approved is costing someone else maybe their neighborhood they grew up with and what it looked like before, or their desire for no growth, whatever. So are you comfortable being criticized in that manner and being able to defend your position as to why you made the decision you did?
I work in insurance. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. To expand, though, of course. I mean, and I joke, but it's true. I mean, in my line of work, in my experience, that's a lot of what it is. I mean, insurance is a contract, very similar to what we're dealing with here. We have to defend every decision that we make, and I can't tell you how many denials that. Look, it's not in the policy. The policy says this is why, this is what you have. We would love to talk to you about what maybe you should have next time, but this is how it is. And I can help you understand it, but no, I'm used to explaining decisions and having people upset
Sure.
at me.
And
Yeah.
and a little bit of cover will be provided by the comprehensive plan and our
Sure.
goals and master plans and things. Some of it will be a value judgment, and you'll just have to explain that. I feel comfortable that you would do that. What do you think the public believes in Post Falls is the number one issue?
The public.
Some of us just ran for office
Right,
recently, and
yeah.
every door had the same answer that we knocked on as to when I asked, what do you believe the number one issue is? And
It would be affordability probably, or growth, or traffic.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
I
growth.
mean, yeah.
Everybody said growth, no matter what. I mean, nobody asked if we had the right ratio of parks to population or whatever. It was
Yeah.
every single person said growth. And so, and there are some estimates that we'll be at 100,000 people by 2040. What's your opinion about growth generally, keeping in mind the public opinion is different than what we've done in the past? We've grown, we are the 70th fastest growing city in the country. The public is upset about that, and yet, like you said, growth is inevitable. So what is the happy medium that you believe that the Planning and Zoning Commission should strike? What's that balance?
So as I was reminded, we might not have all the power in the planning and zoning committee, so I'll just preface it with that. But, you know, and I said earlier that it is inevitable and no one likes it, right? I mean, you knock on every door, everybody says they don't like the growth, but they live here. I mean, I live here, right? I run a farm, but I also live in a neighborhood in suburban sprawl. So we're all in.
I would just say, yes, I agree with you that growth is inevitable and it's beneficial. The rate is the question,
Yeah.
and what it looks like. Like
Well, yeah.
I said, well, I would like us to grow with intention. Like, would you agree with that statement?
100%.
And the pace of growth, like I said, 100,000 people by 2040, which when you say 2040 sounds like a long time, but those of us with, you know, salt and pepper hair or more salt than pepper know that that time goes very fast, right? So,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on that, that rate of growth?
I think in preparing for this, I even used the word intentional kind of in my notes. And what is it going to look like? You know, we're at 50 now, so it would basically be double in 20 years, essentially at 4.85% per year, right? I think we have to grow organically. I think if we just keep, if all we do is just keep pushing farther out and farther out, that's a machine-like type of growth, and that's what everybody hates, right? Then again, we have the comprehensive plan. What have we already promised? We have to consider different things, and I know that we're looking at the plan. But no, we need to grow in a way that when we knock on doors, people don't say, I hate the growth. And the parks to person ratio, I think, is interesting you mentioned that, because there's like an illusion that if we just have the right ratio, like again, we're talking about machine language here, not the machine, or not the language that humans actually speak, or like the language of like the soul, right, or the intellect. These are all just like numbers, but how do people feel when you knock on their door? You guys found that out. So I 100% agree it has to be intentional, and I don't know what the power level is in the committee right now, or the board, but we should grow in a way that people don't hate, but we're gonna grow.
I have two more questions.
Yeah.
The first is, what do you believe is the proper role of government?
I thought about the answer to that just for you.
Thank you.
And I hope you like it. So I think that the role of government is to serve the common good. And you may ask what the common good is, and I say those are like the social conditions that enable people to live to their fullest and to accomplish what they can as a human. So we can expand more, but I'll start with that.
Some people believe, though, that the common good includes free health care for everybody, including those here illegally. And other people say that the common good means not doing that so that people can afford to live and they don't have to pay high taxes. So it's a little too general for my taste. I'm wondering, what is government supposed to do and what are they not supposed to do?
So the question, I guess, is more of what is the common good is what you're asking me to define. Well, I mean, that would be based on, if some people are saying one thing and other people are saying another thing, then you would say, would you agree it's subjective or no?
Yeah, what should government not do? In other words, because there will be people that come and say we need to increase the density, we need to allow people to develop whatever they want, we need to, there's going to be all of these things that come up, and some of those will impact the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so what I want to know is a core value. What would you say, that's not really our business?
There's no one size fits all answer for that. I would say that we need to facilitate freedom. We need to promote responsibility. Their laws need to be just, and there's objective measures to those things. But yeah, if you asked 8 people, you would get 9 opinions, I think, on that. And I could give you one, but I think there are general objective standards of justice and treating people fairly and promoting responsibility, not overstepping. And that's where you have to exercise judgment in looking at the situation through both parties' perspectives.
Okay, and then
I'm not for big government, if that's if that's what we're trying to get after.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Finally, do you know or have any relationships with developers or people that want to develop land currently that might reflect a conflict of interest?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions?
We're kind of building off of the last questions. So as fortunately for the Planning and Zoning Commission is that the authorities and restraints are very well defined in state law and local codes, et cetera. So having admittedly not knowing what the state statutes and local codes govern planning and zoning, what is it you believe the authorities and restraints on the Planning and Zoning Commission are, and based upon what do you have that belief?
Well, they would be based off of the codes and the state statutes, right?
But what are they? So I'm asking you what you think the authorities and restrictions are, and since you don't know what the state statutes and local codes are, so you don't know.
I don't know right this second, but I'm sure that somebody that does know could probably catch me up really quickly.
You are asking us to give you this position, and what you're telling me is you don't know what the authorities and restraints of that position even are.
You can put it that way, but I can also, there's codes, there's state statutes. wouldn't I be able to look those things up whenever it came time to make a decision?
True, but if I'm hiring a doctor
Mm-hmm.
and I got a heart problem, and I say, what do you know about the heart? And he says,
Right.
I don't know, but I'll look it up before I start cutting you open.
Hmm.
That doesn't bring me a lot of warm fuzzies.
You got me on that one.
Okay, that's it for me.
The only thing I would like to interject there is I had a discussion with some of our planning and zoning members, and I was reminded by them that most of them had no experience coming into this role, and that perhaps I should not be necessarily valuing amount of time spent on government boards for some of this too. And so I took some of that into account as well, that a lot of this is sort of oriented toward community engagement, and there's an opportunity for people to learn without necessarily being an expert in state code from day one. But I appreciate the question, so I think it's a good thing to check.
And I wouldn't say that somebody needs to be an expert in it, but somebody ought to at least know what the Idaho Local Land Use Act is before coming into it, for example. But
You got me on that one, honestly, yeah.
Further
If we did,
questions?
if we did appoint you, what would you do to get up to speed?
I would definitely have to spend a few hours becoming familiar with the land use act. And then again, like whenever there's a discussion around whatever the topic is, having to prepare for it, just like I would in my career, right? I mean, there's different state statutes and everything in insurance. It might be a state that I don't work in very frequently. When we have to go in for some type of examining or like a large decision, I would have to brush up just like the same way and become a subject matter expert pretty quickly. So on something that I maybe have like an idea of, but not the specifics, have to be able to cite it. So
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Would you be available on Thursday to come to the land use training? Should you be confirmed to the?
I'll work it in. Yeah, I'll be there.
Further questions?
I think you guys have nailed him down, so.
All right, thank you. Take a seat. Okay, so I'm asking for his appointment. I would entertain a motion.
I move for the appointment of Brendon Anderson to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion?
I have a question for discussion then. Does planning and zoning, do they get staff reports the same way we do when they go to make a decision that analyzes the comprehensive plan and the land use codes application and what their authorities are? Do they get a staff report?
Yes,
before-
they do.
Okay. So if Mr. Anderson were being asked to make a decision, he would be well educated through these reports as to what the lateral limits are of his authority and whether certain decisions lie outside of that.
Yes, generally speaking, yes. The staff report does cover the criteria for the individual land use action that is before the commission.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
All right, roll call, please.
Steigleder,
No.
Mosby,
Aye.
Lucca,
No.
Malloy,
no.
Plew.
Aye.
All right, motion fails. We will bring this up at the following meeting, and so I'll have to get a different candidate, and we'll bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for being here this evening.
And I would reserve the right for a motion to reconsider later. Just at this point, I don't think it's ready.
All right. Next up, public hearings. Tonight we have none. And action items, unfinished business, returning ordinances, we have none. New business, item A, purchase of asphalt hot box, streets department.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ross Junkin, Public Works Maintenance Manager. Nice to meet the new council members for the first time. I'm here tonight to request authority to purchase a hot box for our street department. A brief overview of our maintenance program. We have over 500 miles that we maintain of asphalt And in our tool inventory, we have a crack sealer, which kind of self-explanatory, a Durapatcher, which, if you're familiar with chip seal, it's a trailered unit that basically puts down a microchip and seals up cracks as well as potholes, and you can layer it up and protect and seal up your roads. So it's a small area repair. And then we have our asphalt paver, which we use for projects, and we put down about 1.5 miles of asphalt overlays each year in-house. For a number of years, we've been looking at one of these hot boxes to augment our program, and we're to the point where we're here asking for one. So the unit is a 4-ton trailer. It'll hold 4 tons of asphalt, and it's designed to keep the asphalt hot all day long. So the problems that we run into is we'll get a dump truck full of asphalt, but we can't get a full dump truck because it cools off too quickly, and then it goes to waste, and we end up throwing away half of it sometimes. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to stay on the job as much as possible on the site rather than going back and dumping the cold asphalt and getting some more hot mix from the plant. The other ability that this unit has is that it can reheat asphalt that's cooled off. So we could use some of the asphalt, in theory, through the winter months and reheat it, and thus be able to do hot patches in the winter months when the asphalt plant is closed. That's our hope for it.
Why only in theory?
We haven't put it in practice yet.
Oh, it's not like a known thing that it can do?
In researching it, that tells us that's something that it can do.
Okay. You have doubts?
I don't have the doubt.
Okay.
A few of my workers
Okay, fair enough.
are
Okay,
skeptical,
okay.
but
I'm a fan of skepticism. That's fine.
sure. But we're hopeful, very
Okay,
hopeful that
okay.
would do it for us as well. So we could reuse that asphalt. And then it also reduces the number of trips that we have to take because we can stay on the site doing the work. Here's a picture of it. It has a dump feature. Puts it right where we want. There's a small patch that they're doing right there. That's pretty typical of some of the patches we do. In the winter months, this is kind of the process that we have to do. It's called temporary patch or cold patch, and it's a pliable asphalt mixture, but it's a temporary patch. We'll put it down in a pothole or a larger bad section of asphalt. We'll roll it or compact it, but in order to do a full permanent patch, we have to come back in the spring, cut that out, and then do a hot mix anyway. We're hopeful that this could solve that problem, some of that problem, during the winter months, and just do it right then, not have to come back to it.
Do we currently rent these, or what are we doing now?
We do not have one of these.
So we don't ever use one of these, like rent one and,
No, I'm not aware that you can rent these anywhere locally.
okay.
So
Is there any special training required in order to operate one?
we're looking into that. I already asked my supervisor to look into the training if we get approved and seeing if somebody would come. They're ordered out of the Midwest, so potentially we could have somebody come train, be on site with our crew, and go through it for a day.
Just looking at what it is, does it strike you as a very complex system?
It doesn't. I mean, it's a heater. It keeps that asphalt hot. So there are some safety things about it that I'm not concerned about, but I want people to be aware of when they're using it. So it's a new piece of equipment, and everybody needs to know how to use it properly and safely.
Yeah, I'm no mechanical expert, but it's basically a hot dump trailer, right?
Basically, yeah. It does have some other features. It will have a access for a wand that can spray tack, which is what you put around the outside edges of asphalt when you're putting down a patch to make it's like a glue that bonds the two surfaces together. And then I believe there might even be crack sealer on this, so we don't have to transport 2 different units. We can crack seal right then after we're done.
So what do we do now that's different than, I mean, I understand what this will do. What are we currently doing when we're paving?
So for the use of this product, or this tool, we put it in a dump truck and we drive out and go as fast as we can until that thing cools off, and then we have to usually stop and throw the waste material in our yard and haul it off and send it back to the asphalt plant when they're done for recycling.
So what do we do with the leftover?
We send it back to the recycling plant, and they turn it back into asphalt.
Okay, so they're able to do that.
We paid for it, but we're just sending it back.
So is the design for this to increase efficiency, just to reduce waste?
Very much so, yeah. And to stay on site, getting the stuff patched. And like I said, we're very hopeful we can use this during the winter. And in the wintertime, we cannot put hot mix down. The plants aren't open. The state's paving right now a little bit, but they have to pay a big fee to open the plant this time of year. And temperatures being what they are, it's a hit and miss.
So my previous house was built on a marshland that was filled in, and that city, and this was a long time ago in a highly regulated state that wouldn't allow it today, they would take the excess asphalt and they would throw it into the marsh, and we were perpetually digging up large chunks of asphalt out of our yard. So this seems like a much better option.
We don't do that.
Of course.
No, everything gets recycled. So,
Yeah.
With this purchase, we would like to use the Sourcewell Co-op. It's open to government agencies, and we get a reduced rate for that. So the budget that we put in for the budget amendment that just came through not too long ago was $85,000. The price for this one under the cooperative purchasing is $63,488.75, and I'm here to ask for permission to spend that money.
Are there any ongoing costs?
On this?
Service or maintenance or anything?
Just like any other piece of equipment, there may, hoses may need to be replaced, but it's not expected to be a major maintenance piece.
Yeah. There's no subscription for XM radio or something? We need. All right.
No
Thank you.
contracts or anything with it.
Any special towing vehicle, or can just,
What we have will work,
okay.
yeah.
Mr. Junkin, can you remind me, have like the last 3 requests that you've given to us all been under budget?
Just say yes.
I feel like
Yes,
they all have been.
all under budget for certain, yeah.
Or no contingency
And pretty much
requests?
everything I've come before you, probably in the last year, has been replacements.
Already funded.
They're funded as part of the replacement budget. This is outside of that, but it was previously requested.
Seems like
budget.
an overwhelmingly reasonable addition to the Post Falls fleet. So,
It seems like a very reasonable price, too. I've been looking personally at hydraulic dump trailers for small-scale logging and that kind of stuff, and they're not much cheaper than that. So I don't know where you found that deal, but I don't know where you found that deal,
A
but
lot of research goes into this stuff. We
Yeah.
don't just go, oh, that's cool. We look across the country and see what's out there and try and find the best deal, but meet our needs.
well, I would move to approve the purchase of the asphalt hot box for the street department.
second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mosby,
Aye.
Lucca,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Plew,
Aye.
Steigleder.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is City Boards and Commissions Code Update.
Maybe.
Gotta get it just right.
You don't get a presentation tonight, apparently. Try this one. There we go. All right. Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm Warren Wilson, the Deputy City Administrator. Tonight, I want to talk to you about a proposed code update that we've been working on. This is in the sort of the mode of housekeeping, cleaning up our codes. We started this project because we have for a number of years had a urban forestry commission that didn't exist formally in our city code structure, which can create problems. We needed to integrate that into our system. So last year, we moved 2 of those members onto our Parks and Rec Commission with the understanding that we would come back and then essentially update our code surrounding the Parks and Rec Commission to include that function. And so that's what started this project, was sitting down and saying, okay, we need to incorporate the urban forestry function into Parks and Recreation. So as we started doing that, as we try to do, we took a look at the codes surrounding this section and decided there's some things that we need to clean up. There was some outdated language. There was some disconnects that didn't quite match up with existing or current state law that probably matched up when the codes were adopted initially. And so we decided let's just redraft the whole chapter dealing with our boards and commissions. So that's what we did. So I'm going to run quickly through the gist of what the changes look like. The ordinance is attached that you can see what the language looks like. For our Planning and Zoning Commission, they also serve as our Impact Fee Advisory Commission, and that wasn't previously captured in the makeup of how the code was written. So we've explicitly put that in as their part of their duties. They would have 7 members, which continues the same. 4-year terms with a quorum of 4. That's all continuing as it has been. Residency and makeup is not really changing. It's always been county residents that have lived in the county for at least 2 years under our code. A change in state law that we just worked through last year, we're now required to ensure that there's representation for the area of impact. If we have an area of impact outside our city limits, which we do, so that's captured in the county residents. We also, under the Impact Fee Advisory Commission, we have to have at least 2 members who are actively involved in the development, real estate, construction trades to be able to serve on that board. So
And that's based on state code?
it is. All of this comes straight out of state code. Things I didn't capture on here that's a little bit unique about the Planning Commission. It's Planning and Zoning Commission. Appointments, the Local Land Use Planning Act intended to isolate Planning Commission members to allow them to sort of do the things that are hard to do. And so there's protections built in that you have to be removed. It has to be for cause. You can't just remove them because you don't like them. And on the appointment side, they have to be nonpartisan. You can't appoint somebody based on their partisan politics.
How does that work when their term is over?
So then the term is just over. You
Okay.
can reappoint them.
I see.
There's
Okay.
actually some nuance on like a third appointment, but we almost never get into that range. So essentially, you can appoint them, reappoint them at that point in time for as long as you're not violating the criteria that you can't consider.
Or
The
not
reappointment is
reappoint
separate.
them.
What's that?
Or not reappoint them?
Or not reappointment,
okay.
because it's a reappointment essentially as an appointment. So.
Okay.
So Parks and Rec and Urban Forestry, this makeup is.
One moment, if we could go back, I just had
Sure.
a question about, so we don't require them to be a city resident, they just have to live within the county.
Yes, that's all that's required under state law. We could, in theory, require city residency with caveats because we also have to allow people who reside in the county in our area of impact to serve on the commission. So it's easier just to say, you've been in the county for a couple of years.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec, same type of makeup, 7 members, 4-year terms, a quorum of 4. This is something that we created ourselves, so there's no state law to guide what this commission looks like. So we have more flexibility in what this board does and what it looks like. So for this one, our Parks Department thinks it's important for them to be city residents, that they've been here for a minute so they have a sense of what's happening in the community. And because it's not governed by state code, the removal is just under whatever processes we create for ourselves. Cause is not necessarily. See what I did there? So the Urban Renewal Agency is the other one that we currently, well, there's one more that we can talk about in a second. Urban Renewal Agency, they are a separate board. While the mayor and council do the appointments, they are a separate body politic. So we don't control them, we just appoint the members, if that makes sense. Similar makeup again, 7 members, 4-year terms, quorum of 4. The current requirements for makeup, and this is a carryover from existing code, is they just need to reside in the county. This is another area where there's state laws specific about the removal of these members. You have to essentially provide notice and opportunity for a hearing to remove them. And so this is what we're changing here as a reflection of what's required under state law. We're updating the code to reflect those requirements.
And there's no requirement for the Urban Renewal Agency to have commissioners that have experience in real estate or construction or development. It seems like it would be more pertinent to have them here
There is not.
than in planning and zoning. Would that be something that council would be allowed to consider, or do we just trust that those are the kinds of people that we would appoint?
I think you probably could. We typically have just tried to follow what the state law is because it provides more flexibility.
Okay.
As you noted earlier, it can be difficult to find volunteers or
Right.
pay for these positions is a little bit low.
Yeah.
And so we want to have the price of entry being easy enough that we can find enough bodies to fill the commissions.
Okay.
The last one that's currently in this section, I'll talk about one more in just a second, is our Building Code Board of Appeals. This is something that's required under the International Building Code series. We have to have a panel of people who are experienced in the trades to rule on questions where there's a concern that the building official is applying the code inappropriately. This almost never gets called together for a meeting. We've done it exactly once in the 12 or so years I've been here. It just doesn't happen that often. So we have cleaned up and simplified the language based on what the current IBC looks like versus when the IBC, when this was adopted back 15 years ago. And also, frankly, on where the IBC is going. We looked at the 2024 IBC, which we have not adopted yet, but that's coming up in an adoption cycle. We looked at what those rules look like, made sure that we're consistent with that as well, so that we're not going to have to come back and touch that one again. The residency and makeup, it has to be a county resident. Again, this is one where we probably want a broader pool because we need to make sure we can pull people in. You can't be a city employee because, again, you're weighing in on the experience or the decision of the building official, and you have to be experienced in the trades.
Do we find the 7 members when we decide that we need it, or
So
do
we have them appointed. We
okay.
keep them appointed. We talked about, do we want to change the 4-year term because we don't have them all the time. Like I said, it's been probably 9 years since the last time we did this. Our thought process was it's probably good to have a 4-year term just because that forces us to check in every 4 years so that when lightning strikes and we need to convene this and we start punching the numbers and you find out they've left the jurisdiction, it would be nice to know that earlier rather than later. So there's that one. There is one more board that we have that is not lived in this section. It's codified by ordinance, but it's not I said that wrong. So it is in an ordinance, but it's not a codified ordinance, and that's our industrial, the board to issue industrial revenue bonds. That's generally the mayor and 2 other members, and so I think our plan is, we've talked about this a little bit this morning, just for transparency, to add that to this section as well with the same kind of makeup requirements and 4-year terms, the whole, essentially, so that everyone can see what those boards and commissions are. So that's the only other thing that I would mention to you.
So that would come back at a later date to add to this?
So we would bring that back with the ordinance for adoption.
Gotcha.
So this is just to introduce it, see if there's questions or amendments, and then we would bring this back at the next meeting for adoption. So with that, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
I think it's certainly important to be legal, and the primary purpose of this upgrade is to keep up with newer state laws. So, and other than that, nothing is really changing all that much. I think if later on we wanted to get more restrictive, then it's something we could look at. But for right now, I think the priority is let's get legal, and then we can get into finer details later if we
my
want to.
least favorite things we can't change, so I have no
And one thing we have tried to do in this rewrite is where there is a state code that applies, we've tried to put a cross-reference in so that if you're looking at it, that is a gig to go look at that, and hopefully that'll help us as we move 5, 10, 15 years out, as codes change, that we can then follow the link, figure out what we need to be doing.
right, if there's no further questions, then we're ready for a motion on this
I would
one.
move to approve the city boards and commissions code update and direct the staff to bring back the ordinance at the next meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Lucca,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Plew,
Aye.
Steigleder,
Aye.
Mosby,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is citizens' issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council relating city-related issues that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak? All right, seeing none. Then we will move on. Administrative staff reports. I think we have none tonight. Mayor and council comments. Nothing from me. Anything from council? Okay, then next item is executive session.
I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206A to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent wherein the respective qualities of individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need. Further, that no action will be taken during the session. The session will last approximately 36 minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Plew,
Aye.
Steigleder,
Aye.
Mosby,
Aye.
Lucca,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We'll go to executive. All right, we'll return to session. Is there any other business to come forward before we adjourn?
No.
Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.